Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Exalted One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear friends in Dhamma, here the Leicester Buddhist Vihara, first time I start my sermons, and I am very happy to meet you here. And first of all, I would like to ask you that please forgive me if I have some mistakes in my English. Okay? And I would like to explain as a summary what Buddhism is. And all Buddhist doctrines can be included into one stanza, what Buddha taught. I think all of you know the stanza. Can you remember? Yes, very good. Sabba papassa akaranam kusalassa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanam etang buddhan sasanam. This is the message of the all Buddhas who appeared in the world. Sabba papassa akaranam, not to do evil. Kusalassa upasampada, do good. Sacitta pariyodapanam, purifying one's mind. This is the message of all Buddhas who appeared in the world from time to time. The very first one is not to do evil. Why we should avoid? Why we should not do evil? What is the reason? If we do something with impure mind, we will have negative results, bad results. Not only hereafter, but in this immediate life, we have to face a lot of problems when we do some bad deeds, unwholesome deeds in our life. That is why Buddha very kindly advised us to not to do evil. And Buddha says, if someone does something with impure mind, physically, verbally or mentally, unwholesome results will follow us. That is why we should avoid, we should not do evil actions. That is the first advice of all Buddhas in this world. And the second one, kusalassa upasampada, practicing good deeds, physically, verbally and mentally. What are the good deeds? According to Buddhism, what are the main good deeds, meritorious deeds that we can practice in our life? There are three meritorious deeds, wholesome deeds. They are dana, sila, bhavana. Practicing generosity, practicing virtue, and practicing meditation. These are the meritorious deeds, wholesome deeds that we can practice for our inner peace. If we do something with pure mind, physically, verbally or mentally, we will have good results, fruitful results. Not only hereafter, but in this life, we can see the results. That is why Buddha very kindly advised us to practice good deeds as much as we can with pure mind. When our mind is pure and calm, automatically we practice good deeds in our life. I think you have heard Mangala Sutta, the discourse of blessings. There are 38 blessings that Buddha has explained in Mangala Sutta. When our mind is pure and calm, then we do good deeds. What are the blessings that Buddha explained in this sutta? Mata pitu uppattanam. Taking care of our parents is a blessing, supreme blessing. Dhanancha dhammacharyacha. Practicing generosity, practicing virtue is a supreme blessing. Dhamma savanam. Listening to Dhamma is a supreme blessing. Discussing Dhamma is a supreme blessing. Arya Satchana Dassanam, seeing the Four Noble Truths, is a supreme blessing. Finally, Buddha explained, making an unshaken mind among 8 worldly conditions is a supreme blessing. Puttassa loka dhammehi chittang yaksana kampati. Asokang virajang khemang etam mangalamuttamam. Making an unshaken mind among the 8 worldly conditions, among good and bad, praise and blame, happiness and unhappiness. If we can make an unshaken mind, that is the highest blessing. When our mind is pure, these are the blessings that happen in our life. And Buddha says, the more we practice merits, the more we are happy. When we do good deeds as generosity, virtue, and meditation, then we are happy. Day by day, our happiness increases. And according to my understanding, all good qualities depends on 3 meritorious deeds: generosity, virtue, and meditation. These meritorious deeds can be divided into 2. In one thing, in conventional truth. The other one is absolute truth, ultimate truth, paramattha satya. Both of them are very important. In the primary level, we practice 3 meritorious deeds in conventional truth. It means that we practice generosity. We offer something to others. We think there is a person outside. And also, we practice virtue, discipline in our speech and behavior, sila. There we think that there is a person outside, I am also here, there is a permanent world in conventional truth. Then third one, meditation, practicing loving kindness. Practicing loving kindness is the highest merit in the conventional truth. When we go around the circle of samsara, if we can practice loving kindness meditation, that is the highest merit according to what Buddha taught. And these are the primary thin qualities in the conventional truth. If we need to succeed our family life, social life, and any other lives, if we want to succeed, we should practice these 3 things. If we want to win friends, sometimes a person asks Buddha, how we win friends? What is the quality when we are going to win our friends? Buddha says, practicing generosity is the quality to win friends. If you are greedy, you have no many friends. If you are generous, you can make a lot of friends. That is very important. The second one is sila, or virtue. Buddha says, if you have a virtuous life, then your friends, your relatives, are confident in you. They trust in you. If you practice at least 5 precepts, then your relatives, your friends automatically respect you. If you want to succeed your social life, Buddha says, be virtuous. Practice virtue. Practicing virtue is the way to succeed our social life. Then, in bhavana, meditation, practicing loving kindness. Buddha says in Metta Sutta, Karaniya Metta Sutta, he who wishes to attain the peace of mind has to practice loving kindness. He who doesn't practice loving kindness, it means he hasn't started his spiritual life. The reason is, one of the main reasons of suffering is anger. If you want to become a peaceful life, you have to practice loving kindness. That is very important. When we discuss Buddha's message, all Buddhist doctrines can be included into 2 pillars. One of them is practicing loving kindness or compassion, as you said. The other one is wisdom. Very good. All Buddhist doctrines can be included into 2 pillars. One of them is practicing loving kindness or compassion. The other one is practicing wisdom. Here, we are discussing the conventional truth. And in one side, we should practice generosity, virtue, and loving kindness in conventional truth. The second one is very important. In the ultimate truth, Paramatta Satya, absolute truth, Buddha explained how we succeed our deliverance path. According to Buddhism, there are 2 paths. They are heavenly path and deliverance path. First of all, I explained the 3 meritorious deeds in conventional truth that leads to heavenly path. If we can practice 3 meritorious deeds in our life as much as we can, we have a guarantee that we will have a blissful life when we live this life. We should have a confidence. That is very important. The second one is the deliverance path. This is the very, very important thing. Here, it is very important to understand the impermanence, what Buddha taught, anicca. Understanding the impermanence, anicca, is the turning point whether you have listening to the Buddha's message. When you meet a person who knows Dhamma, then he may ask you some questions because he needs to where you are in wisdom. Buddha says, discussion is the way to understand a person's intelligence or wisdom. Sākaccāya paññā veditabbo. By discussing, we understand a person's wisdom or intelligence. That is very important. Here, as Buddha's teachings followers, we should understand impermanence or anicca. When we ask a question from a person, what anicca or impermanence is, suddenly they may say that changing. But be sure, there is a difference between impermanence and changing. Impermanence means anicca. Changing means in Pali viparinama. Viparinama and anicca are different. Changing can be understood by anyone, even scientists, by doing some research, experiments. They have discovered changing very clearly, dividing atoms. Buddha says, if someone can understand impermanence in Buddhism, he is ready to understand dukkha and anatta, suffering and egolessness. But, even scientists have discovered changing. They didn't realize dukkha and anatta. That is a very important point. Changing means it is very easy to understand. Now, sometimes you are healthy, one day you are going to unhealthy. And now this building, we can see this building, one day it is going to destroy. Little by little we are going to old age, sickness and death. Actually, this is the changing. Where Buddha realized this changing? If you know the Buddha's character, before he did his renunciation, when he was going to part with Channa minister, he knew old age, death, sickness. That is the changing. Before his renunciation, he realized changing. After he attained enlightenment, he says, Pubbe ananusutesu dhammesu chakkunu udapadi. I realized something that before I didn't understand. Before I didn't heard. I didn't hear. I realized something when I attained enlightenment. Then his understanding with Minister Channa, seeing dead body, sick person, an old person, and his experience is different. And here I am going to explain what is the meaning of impermanence. Impermanence means, that is an important thing, there is a very special word in Buddhism in Pali. I think, according to my understanding, it is the golden sentence that Buddha says, Ahutva sambhutam hutva nabhavisati. It means, not being occurred comes to occurrence. Being occurred will not go to occurrence.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. Not being occurred comes to occurrence. Being occurred will not go to occurrence.
Sometimes we've had arisen.
Yeah, arising and ceasing.
Yes.
For example, this sound. Before you heard this sound, there was not a sound. After you heard this sound, it doesn't remain. It didn't remain. When conditions together, the sound arises. When conditions cease, immediately the experience ceases. This is the foundation of impermanence. Understanding of impermanence depends on understanding the dependent origination. Understanding the dependent origination depends on understanding the Four Noble Truths. These are very important. This is the essence of Buddhism. Your understanding in Buddhism completely depends on understanding of impermanence. I is impermanent. What is the meaning of I is impermanent? Buddha says, Chakkung aniccham, Rupang aniccham. I is impermanent, forms are impermanent. What is the meaning of I is impermanent? I means not the physical I, the ability of seeing. The ability of seeing arises at the moment when other conditions are together. It is instant. It arises at the moment with the conditions. Our all experience in our life is impermanent. Impermanent means that experience arises at the moment with the conditions. When conditions cease, immediately the experience ceases. Like this sound. This sound arises at the moment with the conditions. Immediately it ceases. That is the meaning of impermanence. We can understand these fingers are subject to change. My ears are subject to change. It is very easy to understand. It is changing. But impermanence means this sound arises at the moment. That is the meaning of impermanence. The sound arises because of these reasons, conditions, such as fingers, ears, consciousness. These are the conditions. When conditions are together, the experience arises. But very special thing that even though this sound arises because of conditions, this sound doesn't belong to conditions. This sound arises because of my fingers, but this sound doesn't belong to fingers. This sound doesn't belong to even my ears. Special thing that this sound doesn't belong to even my consciousness. But without these conditions, the sound doesn't arise. But the ordinary people, they think that the experience belongs to conditions. For example, when someone blames me, if I am ignorant, I think that this sound belongs to him. That is why I get angry with him. If we can understand this reality, immediately we are able to overcome attachment and anger. According to Buddhism, we reduce greed and anger in some levels. By practicing generosity, by practicing compassion, we can reduce greed and anger in some levels. But if we want to overcome attachment and detachment completely, we have to overcome ignorance or delusion. You know, in Buddha's time, there were some ascetic people who had eradicated their greed and anger for 84 great eons. Like Alara Uddaka Ramaputta. When Buddha appeared in the world, who had eradicated, there were some people who had eradicated their attachment and detachment for 84 great eons. But they were not successful when Buddha appeared in the world. What is the reason? Even though they reduced greed and anger, they were unable to reduce ignorance, delusion. The special thing in Buddhism, the way how we understand to overcome ignorance or delusion. In the second level, ultimate truth, we understand how we overcome attachment and anger completely. There it is very important to understand the meaning of anicca or impermanence. And Buddha says, our all experiences and senses are impermanent. Eye is impermanent, forms are impermanent, ear is impermanent, sounds are impermanent, nose is impermanent, smell is impermanent, tongue is impermanent, taste is impermanent, body is impermanent, feelings are impermanent, mind is impermanent, mental formations are impermanent. This is the world. This is our world, entire world. Without these internal senses and external objects, we have nothing in our life. What is the nature of all these senses and objects? They are impermanent. It means they arise at the moment. In our intellectual world, in our real world, we have no ready-made things. In absolute truth, we have no ready-made things. We make something like you prepare tea. You prepare tea at the moment. Like that. Before you came here, there were no tea here. Adding something, some sugar, tea, milk. You prepared tea at the moment. Like that. We prepared something, forms, sounds, feelings, smell, everything we prepared at the moment according to our present mental condition. As soon as you come here, you met me and you said hi for me. Now, when you look at me, now your understanding is different. From moment to moment, end of this sermon, your experience will be different. Even though you see the same person or same sound, actually from moment to moment, our experience changes. And also, what is the reason? Our mental condition, our ignorance, our attachment, our karma, these are the reasons why our senses change. Every moment, our senses, internal senses change according to our present mental condition. If we are wise, if we can overcome ignorance, then our senses change. Then what is the highest understanding throughout practicing Dhamma? It means the Buddha says in Bahya Sutta, Ditte Dittamattam Bhavisati. As soon as you experience something, you understand this experience arises at the moment. If we have this understanding, if we reflect on this reality, actually at the moment, our mind has no space to greed or anger. Because we completely in the present moment reflecting on impermanence. Not only we live in the present moment, but we reflect on impermanence. What is the impermanence? What is the meaning of impermanence? Ahutva sambhutang hutva nabhavissati. Not being occurred comes to occurrence. Being occurred will not go to occurrence. Our past experience, past thought influenced the present thought, and the present thought influences the next thought, but the past experience did not come to present. The present thought will not go to future. At the moment, according to our present mental condition, the experience arises and ceases. if we have this understanding, our mind is not fixed in outside material things. If our mind is not fixed in outside material things or persons, where we are in, we have overcome suffering. We have overcome the suffering of sickness, death, and rebirth. This is the way that Buddha explained to overcome suffering. The suffering of sickness, the suffering of aging, the suffering of death. Buddha explained the way how we overcome these challenges. Buddha explained the main challenges in our life. There are 3 main challenges. Have you recognized main challenges in your life? What are the main challenges in your life according to what the Buddha taught? There are 3 challenges, main challenges in our life. They are aging, decay, death, and rebirth. These are the main challenges in our life. All Buddhist doctrines in absolute truth depends on reducing, overcoming these challenges. Buddha explained his message for 45 years how to overcome these challenges. If we can overcome these challenges, it means we have overcome suffering. The way that Buddha explained to achieve this goal is understanding the dependent origination, the Paticcasamuppada, and practicing the Eightfold Path. This is the summary that I wanted to explain you. Have you any question? It is clear?
It is very clear.
Buddha says very special thing. Buddha says, I proclaim the reducing of fetters, defilements, for those who know the path, who see the path. I proclaim attain enlightenment for those who know the path, who see the path. Before we start a journey, we never have been. First of all, we know the address. Even though your courage is very high, if you don't know the destination, your effort is useless. That is why Buddha says, knowledge and practice both are important. Knowledge without practice is useless. Practice without knowledge is blind. Both are very important. Here, first of all, we should understand heavenly path. And next, we should understand the deliverance path, Mokkhamagga. Saggamagga and Mokkhamagga. Saggamagga means the path of heaven, the path of a blissful life. Next, Buddha says, Mokkhamagga, the path of deliverance. Both are very important. First of all, we should have a confidence that I never go to a hell. I am sure that after I die, I will have a blissful life. We should have a guarantee. Next, we should know the path, how we overcome suffering. Whenever we are ignorant, anyone can disturb our peace of mind. If we think there is something permanent outside, if we find a person outside as permanent, it means anyone or anything can disturb our peace of mind. We have no freedom. We have no liberation because we depend on outside. If we can depend on inside, reflecting on impermanence, this is the way how we achieve the liberation or freedom. Buddha pointed out the way how we attain the real liberation, freedom in this immediate life. The very special thing in Buddhism, all other religions explain their liberation or heaven after they die. But how about Buddhism? Buddhism explains the liberation while we are living. Before we die, we can experience liberation. And also, before we die, we can experience heaven. When you practice loving kindness, you don't stop in loving kindness. You have compassion, karuna, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekha, equanimity. He who practices these four sublime states, it means he is like a Brahma, bearing a human physical body, physically, mentally, he is like a Brahma. This is the way how we make a heaven before we die. And also Buddha pointed out the way how we achieve liberation before we die. Okay, I explained it very short, okay. In my temple, sometimes I explain some sermons more than 1 hour because you are very new for me. I explain my sermon very short. Have any question?
It seems that I've never really thought of it quite like that because impermanence and change have always seemed to be the same thing. Because we know that the world's changing and the universe is changing, so it's easy to believe that. But it seems as if you're saying that it's a entirely internal thing, and it's a way of, in a way, destroying the ego. Because if you think that everything is just responding to your senses and changing, it has the effect really of stopping you sort of building up, a big sort of picture of yourself and creating this.
Actually, changing is also one of the characteristics of impermanence. When we discuss impermanence, impermanence has several characteristics. One of them is changing. But changing and impermanence are not completely same. Okay? Because of this impermanence, we can see some changing in the world. Not only physical world, even our mind changes from moment to moment. It is correct. But impermanence has a deep meaning. Even though we understood changing, sometimes we don't understand impermanence. Understanding impermanence completely depends on understanding the dependent origination in Buddhism. That is why sometimes, even though we have realized changing, we are not away from attachment and greed and anger. Even though scientists have discovered changing very clearly, divided in atoms in their library, in their laboratories, but they have attachment, they are angry, they are jealous. Still they have their negative thoughts. But the important thing, when we realize impermanence according to what Buddha taught, as much as we understood, we have overcome attachment and detachment. Because the more we understand impermanence according to what Buddha taught, the more we understand suffering, dukkha, and egolessness, anatta too. Those three things are interrelated. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. Three characteristics are interrelated.
So permanence is a delusion, because our minds move much faster than materialism. You come along and you say, look at this house, it's been here for years and it's not changed at all.
Actually, unknowing impermanence is ignorance. Unknowing impermanence is ignorance or delusion. Understanding impermanence is wisdom.
Yeah.
So the Pali word for impermanence is anicca. So anicca, can you explain different forms of anicca? So one form of anicca is changing. What are the other aspects of anicca? One is changing.
Changing, actually, as I mentioned before, changing is also one of the characteristics of impermanence. For example, this eye means the ability of seeing. That seeing depends on the physical eye. The physical eye always is subject to change. Right? It can be realized by anyone. Now I can see something, one day I will be blind. It is changing. Changing depends on physical things, material things. Even though we don't experience something in outside world, we can see it changing. But the important thing is that impermanence depends on our experience. Even though we don't experience something outside world, they are subject to change. But the very important thing, understanding of impermanence depends on our experience world. That is why Buddha says very important thing in his teachings. Four Noble Truths, understanding of Four Noble Truths depends on the physical body, which consists with consciousness. Buddha says, dukkha satya, the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, the truth that the path that leads to getting rid of suffering, completely depend on this physical body, which consists with consciousness. We understand, we realized impermanence through our experience. And even though we experience something, for example, sometimes you haven't been to Italy or France. Even though you don't experience something where they are subject to change. Even though you don't experience. But impermanence depends on when you experience something through your six senses. When you hear something, when you smell something, even though you didn't go there, if you are listening something, you experience, you have attachment or detachment something there. There you can see the impermanence. It has a deep meaning. But when we meet again and again, we can discuss.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple question. You use the words attachment and detachment as if they're two separate things.
Desire and anger.
Aversion. Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
So, can you give us one example, please? So, let's say if Ramesh shouted at me 2 days ago, and now when I see Ramesh, everything comes into my mind. Oh, he shouted at me, he tried to hit me.
Yes,
I'm trying to visualize.
Yeah, so according to Bahya Sutta, now it says Ditte Ditta Matta, which means I see Ramesh, and then I don't make any things. Oh, he did that. I don't go to past, future. I don't make any of the mental parts. Ditte Ditta Matta, you just see and then stop. Nothing else comes. That's what we want to be. That's where we want to be. So how can you come into that stage using impermanence?
Yes. Actually, when you look at him, suddenly you should understand this shadow or color comes to my eyes at the moment. And the other things, experience, not come through my eyes. Other things arise my mind with my previous experience. That previous experience also not permanent. From that day to today, it didn't come here. It stopped there when experience ceases immediately. Then again, according to the eternal truth of consciousness, Chitta Niyama, it starts here. But because of your ignorance, you think still it is happening. Your ignorance invites you to suffer that experience continuously came here until that experience. But it is ignorant. A person can blame you once. When you are ignorant, you are blamed again and again by your ignorance.
That's a good example.
Yes.
A person can blame you once. If you are ignorant, you are blamed again and again whenever you think it.
So it's just a matter really of understanding. You can't stop this thing coming at you, this anger coming at you, but it's how you treat it when you think, well, I'm not going to hold on to it, you know.
That is why we should need mindfulness.
Yes.
Like you
If
said,
we are in mindfulness, as soon as we experience something, we know very well, now I am in the present moment. We can remember that incident, but we know very well, now I read my own mind, not the real experience.
Right.
When we are not in mindfulness, our mind suddenly goes to past. Not only mind going to past, but our mind lives in the past experience. That is the cause of suffering. Memory is not the fault. Memory is not the reason of suffering. The reason of suffering is ignorance or not mindfulness. If we are not in mindfulness, as soon as we experience something in the present moment, we don't know that I read my mind. Suddenly, my mind goes to past. That is the cause of suffering. With this understanding, if we can live in mindfulness completely, with reflecting on impermanence, at the moment you can remember anything which happened in the past, but you don't suffer. You don't get angry, or you don't have any attachment when we experience something in the present moment.
Are they connected? You say you're not suffering, you're not attached. But are you saying that not being attached, therefore, stops you from suffering? Is there a causal kind of link between these things that you've identified?
Actually, the thing is, very important thing is, when we are in wisdom, actually we have no attachment to anger. There is no space. For example, when you see very dustful thing outside, you never put it in your hand. As soon as you experience, you suddenly know that this is dirty. And like that, if we are in mindfulness, as soon as we experience something, we suddenly know, we immediately know, this is the reality, then we have no ability to attach or detach. You know, in the primary level, we control our desire or anger by force in the conventional truth. But when we go to the deliverance path, as much as we reflect on impermanence, suddenly other defilements go away. Living in wisdom like put off the main switch. When you put off main switch, you don't need to put off other switches. Automatically they are gone. Like that. In primary level, we try to put off one by one. Jealousy, anger, attachment, one by one we put off by practicing loving kindness, asubha bhavana, or the contemplating on impurity, contemplating on death, by practicing various meditation techniques. In the primary level, we try to put off on several switches one by one. But the direct way that Buddha pointed out, reflecting on impermanence, increase in wisdom, we try to put off the switch of main switch. Then automatically, the more we reduce delusion, the more we reduce other defilements, negative thoughts. That is why Buddha says, in the absolute truth, in the deliverance path, the highest quality that we should practice is that anicca bhavana, reflecting on impermanence. Eye is impermanent, form is impermanent, ear is impermanent, sounds are impermanent, nose is impermanent, smell is impermanent. Again and again we think it. The more we practice these things, the more we don't go to outside. The ordinary people, as soon as they experience something, they go outside, they look at outside. We, the Buddha's followers, when we experience something, suddenly we come inside. What happens to my body, feelings, consciousness, and mental formations? That is the fourfold mindfulness. We are living in mindfulness. Buddha says, whenever you are living in mindfulness, it means you are living in the field of the Buddha. Whenever you are away from mindfulness, it means you are living in the field of the Mara, devil. Yes, sir.
It's gone now, but I think what I wanted to... It'll come.
Impermanence.
Yeah, it's impermanent.
Memory is impermanent.
The question I wanted to ask was, it doesn't take away our mindfulness doesn't take away our wisdom to use our survival skills if we are in a threatening situation. I was just thinking of, imagine a person, coming to attack us. Would that mindfulness and our awareness of impermanence, that this is just the conditions that have given rise to this situation, to stop us from, does it kind of say, oh well, this is not happening, this is just, or does it just experience? Does it push you towards pacifism and it'll pass, or does it take away our willingness to put in the right effort to act? But then I think I've answered myself, because if you are on the path, the Eightfold Noble Path doesn't stop us from putting the right effort that situation demands of us.
Yes, actually here it is very important to understand when we discuss mindfulness in Buddhism,
Yeah.
mindfulness is divided into two. One of them is the awareness of our body and mind. That is the one thing. Actually, mostly people know only this part. Not only that, Buddha explained. It means kaya kayanopassi viharati, the awareness of our body and mind. And not only that Buddha explained, but Buddha says, samudaya dhammanupassi viharati, vaya dhammanupassi viharati. It means mindful meditation. Buddha explained in one side mindfulness, the other one is mindful meditation.
Yeah.
Mindful meditation means reflecting on impermanence. Living in the present moment, we reflecting on impermanence. Both should be together. And when we are on this path, it means we are in the eightfold path. All things are together. Samma ditti, samma sankappa, right understanding, right intention, right speech, all things are together when we are on this path. Not only eightfold path, there are 37 enlightenment factors are together. For noble truth, for energies, for your spiritual faculties, for your, there are several things, 7 enlightenment factors, eightfold path. There are 37 enlightenment factors together when we practice mindfulness and mindful meditation. All of them are together. But the very important thing, very important thing, knowledge is very important. First of all, we should know the destination from beginning to end. If we have a good understanding, the path of deliverance, it means always we are on the path of liberation. Little by little, we are reaching the destination. Buddha says, one time Buddha says, you have to practice 37 mental factors, enlightenment factors. Sometimes Buddha says, you have to practice only eightfold path. Sometimes Buddha says, you have to practice 7 enlightenment factors, Satta Bojjhanga. Sometimes Buddha says, you have to be skillful, 6 senses, eye, ear, nose. Again Buddha says, you have to practice 5 spiritual faculties. Then Buddha says, you have to practice 4-fold mindfulness. Then sometimes Buddha says, you have to practice 3 characteristics, Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Sometimes, for some persons, Buddha says, you have to practice only 2 things, concentration and insight meditation. Finally, Buddha says, you have to practice only one thing, mindfulness. When you practice mindfulness, then all other mental factors, enlightenment factors, gradually increase.
So,
For a very gifted person, Buddha directly explains how we practice mindfulness or wisdom. When the audience is not gifted, then Buddha had to explain some doctrines with details. For example, as you mentioned, when Buddha met Bahya Daruchirya, Buddha explained his message in short. Evam hite Bahya Sikkhitabham. Bahya, please you be your discipline in these factors, that when you see something, the experience ceases immediately. There Buddha explained the way how we improve our intelligence, wisdom. He was a gifted person because in previous Buddha's time, he had practiced this message for a long time. Therefore, he was a very gifted person. Actually, he was the person who attained enlightenment very quickly in this Buddha Sasana. Buddha explained the message in short to him, because he was a very intelligent person. And sometimes Buddha had to explain his doctrines with details, with many things, when audience were not gifted. It doesn't mean that audience is ignorant, but they were very intelligent people. But however, Buddha's message is different from audience to audience.
It takes a lot of trouble to explain things over and over again in many different ways.
Yes, actually in Buddha's time, when Buddha met a person, suddenly Buddha read his mind, his wisdom, how far he has practiced his wisdom in his previous life. According to his wisdom, directly Buddha explained the path. Even Sariputta couldn't do it. Only Buddha, only the Supreme Buddha could do it. But other disciples, even Sariputta Moggallana, they also explained the message, Buddha's message with details, because they didn't realize the audience intelligence very clearly.
Yes.
And here, in present time, we have to read a lot of discourses. We have to listen to many sermons.
Yes.
For this goal.
Yes.
Because our speech...
Is it because some people can understand very quickly and others can't? So it takes a lot of trouble. There's a lot of trouble in these books to explain things from different angles and in great detail to make sure everybody gets the message.
Yeah, actually it depends on some people, according to some people's understanding, they explain their message in various ways. You know, even in Buddha's time, we could see it. You know, some disciples, when someone asked them, who is enlightened, when he asked them some question about the deliverance path, he explained the message according to how he practiced. But that person's intelligence was different. When he went to another person who was enlightened, he explained his message in another way. The reason is he has practiced the message in another way. And people, even though they really have attained enlightenment, their sermons may be different. But we should be intelligent. Sometimes some people explain the Buddha's their own ideas as Buddha's message. Sometimes their understanding is wrong. That is why we should be intelligent. You know, when we listening to Buddha's message, especially, we should have 3 qualities. They are intelligence, or we should be wise, and we should be honest, and we should be gently spoken. We should have good attention. These 3 things are very important. Among them, intelligence is very important. When someone explains something, you should be wise whether that message is related to Buddha's real teachings.
I hope I'm not interrupting. I know you're explaining something important, but the question that arises is, you're using the words intelligence and wisdom
as one,
and that a person who's not intelligent can be wise, surely. And is wisdom an intuitive?
I am sorry, because in Buddha's message in Pali word, vinyo, actually it has no real translation in English. We usually say wise or intelligent. But actually those are not the clear words. Vinyo means panya.
Yes.
Panya. Actually panya hasn't a very special word in English. We usually use wisdom.
Yes.
Wisdom. I think wisdom is a better word.
Yeah. Panya is wisdom as we have understood.
Yes, actually even wisdom is not the correct word.
Is it?
Yes.
Deeper.
Yes, it is very close to the word Pali, Panya or Jnana. But it is also not the complete correct word. However we can use wisdom, I think wisdom is better than intelligence. Yes, you are correct.
Because, we know many intelligent human beings.
Yes, but they are not wise.
And often the terms are used interchangeably so that, you see an intelligent person and you assume they're wise. But they may not be.
Actually,
Often they're not. Because there's arrogance about their knowledge.
Actually, Buddha's message, according to Buddha's message, wisdom always with, understanding of the life. Even though we are very clever to other subjects, we are not wise according to Buddhism. Sometimes we can be proficient in a particular subject, but when they come to the Buddhism, they are not proficient. And they can't understand even what is impermanence is. But education, the common education, ordinary education and Buddhist education is completely different. And this education, Buddha says, as an intelligent person, the highest knowledge that we should gain is the understanding of the five aggregates. Five aggregates.
Is the term, you said Vinyu, isn't it? Vinyu means wise.
Vinyu.
Okay. Is that connected to vision? Is the Pali word connected to vision?
Yes, vision or understanding,
Yeah.
right view, right vision, there are synonyms.
Yeah.
And in Pali language, Panya, Vinyu, Jnana, there are several Pali words in the same meaning.
Thank you. You've given us so much insight into the deep way of think about, reflect.
Radha's question about someone attacking. So I went to martial arts class. This guy went to Japan to learn from monks, and he taught you don't get angry or anything. It's just hit. You do this, do that. That's only what you do. Defense.
Yes.
You don't have any of anger or anything towards that thing.
Yes, actually it is correct in some way in Buddhism, but actually when we go to the deeper level, actually it is completely different. Because everything in the world they explain according to conventional truth. The thing is, before we experience there was something. After we experience, there is something which is remained. That is the nature of the understanding of the conventional truth in the ordinary level. In all religions, scientists, philosophers, they explain their message according to conventional truth. Buddhism also has explained some teachings according to conventional truth. Even the path of heaven, the blissful life, would explain according to conventional truth. It means there is something outside. But when we go to the deeper level, Buddhism doesn't say that there is something, no, there isn't something. Both are extremes. If we think there is something outside, it is an extreme. If we think there isn't something, that is also an extreme. The interesting thing in Buddhism is that Buddha says, Dittincha anupagamma silava dassanena sampanno. Without going to extremes, we should be in discipline. We should have virtue without going to extremes like there is something or there isn't something. Both are extremes. All religions, philosophers, scientists depends on these extremes, whether there is or isn't. But in deliverance path in Buddhism, Buddha explained this message without going to these extremes. This is the middle path. This is the middle path. Some people may think that if we don't do much things, if we do small things, then it is the middle path. Actually, that is not the middle path. Middle path means, the real meaning of middle path is that we don't think that there is something or there isn't something.
So
We experience something at the moment according to our present mental condition.
Yes.
There is something, but it is depend on the present moment.
So you answered my question, which is that, faced with that situation, you wouldn't go into, oh, this will pass mode, because that's like saying it isn't happening. So that's extreme. Nor should you be totally consumed by the experience that this is and overreact. Taking the middle path allows you to see this as something that has arisen, having not been there, because it didn't occur, it has now occurred, and it will be in the state of not occurring anymore, because it's impermanent. That's the insight of it.
Even though it ceases, when again conditions arise, the experience again arises.
And the situation you described, rather, which is quite extreme situation, but it's the wise action would be to run if you can. To stand there and wait for it to happen might not be the wise thing to do, but if you can't, run, get away from it. Maybe.
And that's the first rule in martial arts.
Yes.
When there's any sort of confrontation, you run away.
Actually, here also his experience, his example also, not the real example actually. Even though they practice their arts, their martial arts, then they may think that there is some person outside. That is actually, even though they are neutral, anytime they may have some problems. For example, even though now your mind is equanimity, now you have no attachment or detachment with anyone. But if you are ignorant, anytime your attachment may arise. Even though now you are very calm and quiet, if we think there is something outside, it means we are ready to go to outside anytime when there is
conditions arise.
That is why.
Bhante, just one moment. When Kosala gave the example of somebody there in the martial art, let's say you have to confront, but he is talking of the moment when that condition arises, not that he was thinking that there is somebody outside. Yes, so you were saying that he is thinking that there is somebody outside. But let's say I practice martial art. I don't go around thinking that there is somebody outside. But if somebody comes at that moment, at that point, when I think that yes, I'm going to be attacked, so I don't have to think, because that's happening.
We live in conventional reality. Is that what you're saying?
Can he defend with compassion to me? I try to attack him. Can he defend with compassion to me? Is that what he should do? Defend himself with compassion to me, without getting angry.
Yes, actually you are correct. It is also in the conventional truth. Even though we practice loving kindness, compassion, actually all of those qualities are not related to the deliverance path. All of them depend on the conventional truth. In some levels we can control our anger and attachment. But it doesn't mean that we have completely overcome suffering. Anytime we can go to the world, we can have some problems. Even though now we are completely compassionate, but anytime our mental situation can change. But when we see the highest reality, there we have no space to attachment or anger.
So we have to keep looking for this main switch.
But little by little we should do it. Little by little we should sharpen our wisdom. Day by day, by reflecting on impermanence, we sharpen our wisdom. One day, we will be ready to practice on Ditthiya Dittamatta. What we say, we immediately say it happens at the moment. That is our final result. We can't enter directly the destination, but in this level, little by little, we practice compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic joy, practicing generosity, virtue. By practicing these qualities, little by little, we are reaching the highest goal. Buddha's path it has an order. It is a gradual path. That is why Buddha says, Nahang adikenewa anyārādhanam vadhami. It means, at the beginning, I don't proclaim the highest wisdom. At the very beginning, I don't explain the highest condition of wisdom. I explain the highest wisdom little by little, as a gradual path. Like the ocean deepens gradually. Buddha's message is like the ocean. Ocean doesn't deepen suddenly. The ocean deepens gradually from the beach to the water. Buddhism also like that. Buddhist path also like that. Okay, thank you so much. We discussed a lot of things and I am very happy to meet you and share my knowledge with you. And as we are free in the future, little by little, we can discuss something, okay? If you understand some of my mistakes in English, please correct me. And little by little, I am ready to improve my knowledge, and I like to improve my knowledge. Thank you so much for your good attention.
Thank you,
Thank you. By the power of all these meritorious deeds that we acquired here, let's share these merits with our departed relatives by reciting the stanza. Idam me ñātīnam hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñātīnam hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo. Idam me ñātīnam hotu sukhitā hontu ñātayo. By the power of all this spiritual energy, may guardian deities and angels also receive these merits, and may they enhance their divine energy, may they keep their eye on you too, and may they also attain final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's share these merits with guardian deities and angels too. Ākāsattā ca bhummattā devā nāgā mahittikā puññam anumoditvā cirang rakkantu sāsanam. Ākāsattā ca bhummattā devā nāgā mahittikā puññam anumoditvā cirang rakkantu desanam. Ākāsattā ca bhummattā devā nāgā mahittikā puññam anumoditvā cirang rakkantu tvaṃ sadā. By the power of all these meritorious deeds, may you be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you. May no problems come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May your all righteous wishes meet with success. Finally, may all of us attain final bliss of liberation, the everlasting happiness, Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dukkham pantā ca niddukkhaṃ, bhayam pantā ca nibbhayam, sokam pantā ca nissokam, Honto samde pipanino. May the Tripal Gem bless you.